Aurora staggered under the sheer weight of the crystal of eternity as it pulsed with growing intensity in her hand. The ancient temple of Etheris loomed before her, its towering stone columns spiraled upward into a storm-filled sky, crackling with dark energy. The storm outside reflected the turmoil brewing within her heart, fear, hope, and determination, all clashing like warring elements. She knew this was it, the final leg of her journey. And yet, doubt gnawed at her. The prophecy had spoken of her coming, but it had also warned of the darkness that followed. Zalor. The air within the temple was thick with foreboding as she crossed the threshold. Her footsteps echoed in the vast, empty halls, where every surface was covered in ancient, glowing runes, etched in languages long forgotten. The temple's magic was alive, its power woven into every stone, every breath she took. Yet, it wasn't the comfort of protection she felt. It was more like a warning. Something ancient and malevolent was waiting, watching. Aurora's grip tightened on the crystal. It was her only weapon, but it was also the source of all her troubles. Zalor had been hunting her ever since the night she had been chosen as the Crystal Keeper, and his dark shadow had haunted her steps relentlessly. The final confrontation was inevitable. He would come for her here, in the heart of Etheris, where the full power of the crystal could be unleashed. But she wasn't ready. Not yet. She entered the temple's central chamber, a vast circular room that radiated with an eerie, otherworldly glow. In the center of the room was the heart of Etheris, a floating orb of blinding light that pulsed in time with the crystal in her hand. It was the key to unlocking the full potential of the crystal, the source of the temple's ancient magic. But as Aurora approached, the ground beneath her trembled. From the shadows emerged a hulking figure, massive and imposing. The guardian of Etheris. It was a creature forged of stone and ancient magic, towering over her with glowing eyes like burning coals. The ground shook as it stepped forward, its gaze locked on Aurora. Instinctively, she backed away, heart pounding in her chest. The guardian had been placed here to protect the temple from those unworthy of its power, but Aurora wasn't here to steal anything. She was here to stop Zalor, to protect the realm from his darkness. Surely the guardian would understand that. But there was no reasoning with it. With a deafening roar, the guardian raised its massive arm, sending a wave of energy crashing toward Aurora. She barely had time to dive out of the way before the blast struck the ground where she had stood, shattering the stone floor. Her mind raced. There was no way she could fight this thing, not with brute force. But what other choice did she have? As the guardian advanced, Aurora did the only thing she could think of. She reached out with her mind, trying to connect with the crystal's energy. She could feel its power coursing through her, wild and untamed. And then, faintly, she heard the voice again, the same one that had spoken to her in the vision at the crystal's choosing. Balance the scales of power, and the guardian shall yield. Aurora's breath caught. The guardian wasn't just a protector. It was a test. A trial. The temple wasn't meant to keep her out. It was meant to see if she was worthy. And that meant she couldn't defeat the guardian by fighting it. She had to prove her understanding of the balance of magic, the harmony that existed between light and dark. The Guardian roared again, preparing to strike. But this time, Aurora didn't run. She stood her ground, heart racing, and held the crystal high. Instead of wielding it as a weapon, she let its light flow freely, surrounding her in a protective aura. The Guardian hesitated, as if sensing the shift in her intent. Slowly, it lowered its arm, its glowing eyes dimming slightly. Aurora stepped forward cautiously, her hands still outstretched. The light from the crystal wrapped around the Guardian, merging with its own ancient magic. For a moment, the entire chamber was filled with a blinding glow, and when it faded, the Guardian stood still, its head bowed in deference. It had accepted her as the true Crystal Keeper. The path to the heart of Etheris was now clear. Aurora approached the glowing orb at the center of the room, her hands trembling. As soon as she placed the Crystal of Eternity on the platform beneath the heart, a surge of power coursed through the temple. The runes on the walls flared to life, glowing with a brilliance that outshone even the sun. The heart of Etheris expanded, filling the room with its radiant light. And then, the visions came. Aurora's mind was overwhelmed with images, flashes of past and future, of battles fought by Crystal Keepers long before her time. She saw the rise of dark sorcerers like Zalor, twisted by their hunger for power, and the prophecy that had foretold her coming. Faces of those who had sacrificed everything to protect the crystal swam before her eyes, their legacies like a weight on her shoulders. But amidst the chaos of history, she saw something even more chilling. Zalor. His dark magic had grown stronger than anyone had anticipated. He had found a way to tap into the very fabric of reality, corrupting it, twisting it to his will. If he wasn't stopped, the entire realm would be consumed by his darkness. The vision showed her a future of eternal night, where shadows ruled and all hope was lost. Aurora's breath came in short gasps as the vision ended. Her body trembled with the weight of what she had seen. The heart of Etheris had shown her the future, and it wasn't one she could allow to come to pass. But how could she stop Zalor? His magic was beyond anything she had ever faced. The answer lay in the crystal, in the power she had yet to unlock. But time was running out. As she retrieved the crystal, the temple shuddered once more. This time, it wasn't the Guardian, it was something far more sinister. The air grew thick with malevolent energy, and Aurora felt a cold dread settle over her. Zalor had found her. Darkness gathered in the corners of the room, twisting and writhing like living shadows. From the blackness, Zalor emerged, his presence suffocating. His tall, gaunt figure was draped in tattered robes of deepest black, his crimson eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Dark tendrils of magic snaked around him, corrupting the very air he breathed. Aurora's grip on the crystal tightened as she backed away. She could feel its light flickering, struggling against the darkness that surrounded her. Zalor's power was overwhelming, like an abyss that threatened to swallow her whole. Zalor's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "You cannot stop me, Crystal Keeper. The power you hold is nothing compared to the darkness I have embraced. Surrender now, and I may spare you the agony of watching your world crumble." Aurora's heart pounded, but she stood her ground. "I'll never let you destroy the realm." Zalor laughed, a cruel, hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. "Foolish girl. You still don't understand, do you? The crystal is not your salvation, it is your doom. Its power has been tainted by centuries of corruption, twisted by those who sought to control it. And now, it will be your undoing." With a flick of his wrist, Zalor unleashed a torrent of dark magic. The force of the blast sent Aurora crashing into the temple wall, the crystal slipping from her grasp. Pain shot through her body as she struggled to her feet, but the darkness was closing in, suffocating her. In that moment, Aurora understood the terrible truth. Zalor wasn't just after the crystal, he was after her. The power of the Crystal Keeper was the only thing standing between him and complete domination of the realm. If he could break her, the crystal would fall into his hands, and the world would be plunged into eternal night. But Aurora wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. With a surge of determination, she reached for the crystal. Its light was faint, but it was still there, flickering with hope. She summoned every last ounce of her strength, channeling the crystal's energy into a single, desperate blast of light. The magic exploded from the crystal, engulfing the entire chamber in a blinding glow. For a brief moment, it seemed as though Aurora had won. The darkness receded, and Zalor's twisted form was nowhere to be seen. But as the light faded, a cold, empty silence filled the room. Aurora collapsed to her knees, the crystal dim and lifeless in her hand. The battle was far from over, and the true fight had only just begun. The final confrontation with Zalor loomed on the horizon, and the fate of the realm rested on her shoulders alone.